Hi, welcome to HeKate's Crossing. As you can see by the title there, this is Elder Tarot. This is a VR by to Ascension Waves. Now I sort of watched her and she says 7. Well, there's no way with my deck collection can I whittle it down to just 7. So I've sort of put it into sort of categories. So let me put some of these aside so that we can actually start to go through them. So I've got the Norse, got the Native American, okay. I've got the sort of the cultural sense, past life, the sort of cultural. Now Maori, there's New Zealand type 1, of course. There of course is the Hoodoo Tarot and Motherhood. Okay, so witchcraft, Japanese, there's lots of decks there. But what I want to begin with, I think what for me, the Elder Tarot, what responds to me particularly is, for me, comes from sort of wise, sort of, that is the Visconti Sforza. Don't know what it is, but it just gives me that sort of very ancient, elderly knowledge coming through. So I feel that's definitely a deck. I think anything that's sort of Tarot de Marseille style to me gives me that very, unless it's a very modern take on it of course, but traditionally I think Tarot de Marseille, Visconti Sforza, any of sort of those sort of decks are going to give you that sort of ancient thoughts. So, and I think they've got to be sort of like the Tarot de Marseille, like this one here, to me gives it that very sort of elderly, I don't know, that connection, just feels very wise, very knowledgeable. Feels it's very talking very traditional in its meanings. It just feels very I don't know, just gives me that knowledge. That's how I feel from it. So then we've got, so that's the Visconti Sforza, Tarot de Marseille. We have the ancient Italian. I think again it gives you that sort of very elderly sort of feel to it. Does feel very sort of caring, very kind, but yet this I don't know, just feels very ancient knowledge coming through. And then the other one is the horse, is the Spanish Tarot. Again, it has that sort of elderly look to it. I don't know, there's just something about it. It just feels very that way inclined. Okay, so that's the Tarot de Marseille type decks. I feel very in that sort of ancient, elderly type feel. So that's decks number 1. Now, Rider-Waite-Smith normally doesn't, but this one here, because of the look of it, like it just feels, I think anything that has that sort of look to it, again I get that sort of elderly feel to it. Just feels like it's got a lot of wisdom, a lot of knowledge. It's straight up to the point. I think it reminds me a lot of my grandmother who's passed of course, and she was straight to the point, very no holds bar sort of energy. So I think to me sort of gives me that sort of elderly feel to it. Again, you've got the Kipper, there could be Sibylla and Lenormand, any of them that sort of give you that ancient, again it's something my grandmother would use, you know, that sort of energy. Great grandmother. So I feel it gives me that elderly look to it. I don't know why, just not all Kipper and not all Lenmand do it, of course, or not all Sibylla. It just depends. And not all Tarot de Marseille type decks. I think it just totally depends on the look of the cards, colorways. This to me gives it a very sort of elderly connection. Right. Okay, other decks that give me a sort of a elderly connection is definitely the Native American selection of decks that I have. I think this comes very much from the elders. It has that knowledge, that wisdom coming through. That comes from, you know, from the past, very much from the past. I know this is a replaced deck and it's got that sort of modern feel, you know, with the cardstock and that, but the images to me and the messages I get to me feel very elderly in that respect. And I think any sort of Native American type deck that comes not modern aspect, but quite when you're connecting to the clans, to the animals, to the moon cycles, things like that, with the Spirit of the Wheel cards, I think they are very very much in that way, and connecting to the elderly, to that wisdom, that knowledge that comes from the ancients. So to me, again, shamanic medicine cards, again you've got that ancient knowledge coming through quite strong. So to me, even though the images could be quite modern, the knowledge coming through the deck is very in relation to the past. So that one there. Here we've got Native American card, Oracle cards. Again, I feel the knowledge coming through with the totem animals, the gods, the items, the sacred items, things like that. Totem animals, the gods. I think they all come from that ancient knowledge. So again, you get that very elderly type energy. And the last one from this selection here, I'm trying to be as quick as I can with them so the video's not super long, is the Shaman's Oracle. And I think any sort of shamanic type deck in that way that connects with the ancient knowledge of the past, I think feels very elderly type of energy. So I think anything that's sort of shamanic, very cultural type deck that comes from the wisdom of the past, of the knowledge, from the ancients, from the elderly, yeah, definitely feel this is one of those decks. So that gives you the Native American aspect as well. So you've got like the traditional Tarot de Marseille, you've got the Native American. Again, you get that whole ancient knowledge type decks coming through. And I should have added 1 minute. Just give me a moment to pause. Okay, I'm going to include the Primordial Tarot in this as well. To me, very ancient, very elderly. A lot of, even though there's children and animals in the cards, there is a lot of sort of elderly people through it, and it just sort of gives you that really knowledge of the past. So again, you have that really connecting to the source of it all. You're connecting to the origins, to the new beginnings, to the birth of the earth sort of aspect of it. You're connecting to the creatrix energy, to the source, to the knowledge, the secrets of the past. All that all sort of comes through with this deck. You know, it is gorgeous. Just really gives you that sort of energy, the force, the will, all comes from that ancient knowledge. So that to me is a superb elderly type tarot deck. So we're getting there. Okay, next thing I want to look at is the Norse. I think the Magical Nordic Tarot Let's move some of these to one side. Okay, the Magical Nordic Tarot, Jane Wallace. I feel this is very connected to the elderly. When you look at the Norse mythology from the past, even though it's sort of quite colourful and bright, there is that sort of, when you look at it, it does feel very sort of elderly type, motherhood type energy, very caring. I don't know, it just feels very wisdom, knowledge based. There's a lot to the deck, more so than just the tarot. Of course, you can look at the Norse mythology associated with that, and I think that's part of why I also put the Yggdrasil, the Bifrost Yggdrasil Oracle. Again, you've got that whole connecting with the gods and the goddesses, the lands, the deities, the entities, connected to the realms of the Norse mythology. So again, you get that energy that's elderly, that's knowledgeable. I love it. So yep, adding that one to it. So you've got the Norse mythology. So I think anything related to Norse mythology, that Nordic, you are going to get that sense of ancient knowledge through that. Next we've got now I'm including Thoth in here only because it does have a lot of knowledge to it. I think there is a lot with connections to the stars, you know, the astrology aspects to it, to the Kabbalah. All those brings it that ancient knowledge, that elderly wisdom. There is that feel to it, even though it's sort of got a bit more of a modern appeal to it compared to the Rider-Waite-Smith, or the Tahoe de Marseille. But I do feel that this does give it its wisdom, its knowledge, and it comes from the ancients, comes from the past. So the Thoth Tarot is included in there as well. Now, I think, you know, there's so many cultural decks. You've got your Japanese. I think anything Japanese, anything like that, even though this is not, like this is paintings, I think it still gives you that ancient knowledge, that elderly, that past wisdom when you look at the imagery. I think that sort of comes through quite strongly. So any sort of cultural decks, I think, from any faith and belief. I've got ones from New Zealand. Let's have a look at the New Zealand decks. I think even though these are beautiful young people on them, I think the knowledge that comes through is elderly as well. I mean, there are the Tohonga, and there are the elders included in the cards as well. Not very many, but there are a few. There are certainly elderly. Little older people in the cards as well. So it does sort of give you that sense of just the knowledge, I think. Anything that's cultural, I think, has that sense of elder knowledge coming in from the past. This one here, within regards to the Maori deities, is very elderly, wise, knowledge, anything like that, I think, can come through with wisdom. Sorry, you can actually hear the grinder. There we go. Anything like that. You've got the silver witchcraft. Not all witchcraft decks are elderly, but I feel this one gives me that sense of knowledge coming from the past in regards to the sense of sacredness, ritual, rites of passage, it really gives me that knowledge of the past. So it definitely gives me that Elder Tarot aspect. Okay, so we're getting there. So I was just thinking, Sacred Sites Oracle and the Mother Peace Tarot. I think again you have that knowledge of the past, knowledge of different cultures. Again, you get that sense of elderly aspect, storytelling type of cards. So that's the Glastonbury, that's the card that we did the other day. So again, you've got the knowledge from the past coming through these cards really, really strongly. So I do feel like they're quite elderly in that respect, with the wisdom and the knowledge coming through. Okay, so let's put them to one side. How are we doing here? I know I'm sort of racing through because I don't want them too long. As we talked about the Maori one, I thought of this one here, the Maori Oracle. There are others coming through, but I think anything like this has that aspect of the elders, the wisdom, the knowledge coming through. I know this one is still available, which is hence why I'm showing it to you. The other deck I've got is actually not available anymore, I'm not sure. But there are other Maori New Zealand decks that are very sort of elderly orientated. There is the Hoodoo Tarot and Sibyllus Oracleum Oracle. I think those to me are very ancient knowledge, elderly, wisdom and knowledge coming through from the past. I think they're a beautiful, a lot of history that needs to be acknowledged in many ways. It's acknowledged, not practice, but acknowledged. And the Sibyllus Oracleum, again, connection to the past with the mosaic type imagery here. So this is very ancient knowledge coming through. Again, you have the elderly aspect, the wisdom, the knowledge coming through. And there's a lot in the books, the guidebooks and things, which I'm not going to pull out because they're boxed at the moment. A lot of the stuff is boxed, so I've just got to wait until I move into my new space. We'll need new bags. Okay, then we've got a deck, Wonder of Mother, and that comes through, I feel, again, even though it's motherhood, it comes from experiencing an elderly mother, caring and acknowledging the path, the rites of passage as a mother going through. So yeah, I feel like that's another book, another deck that's very sort of elderly in that respect, that wisdom, that knowledge coming through. Oh. And then the last one we've got here is by Mandy Pedersen, and that is the Uncover Your Past Life Oracle. Okay, this to me, again, you've got that knowledge of the past coming through, past life stuff, and again, it's the history, the elderly wisdom, the knowledge, all those things coming through. So that's a few of the decks. Now, I know there's many more decks that share the wisdom and the knowledge coming from the ancients, any sort of goddess, cultural decks that come through, anything that's sort of that really looks at the history of something, I think to me gives me that sort of elder vibe to the tarot and oracle deck. So I just wanted to go through as quick as I can, showing some of the decks. I know it might have felt quite rushed. If you feel like you want me to go through a deck in a much deeper level, let me know. That's it from me for now. Don't forget to check the links down below, check the links on my channel, like, subscribe and ring the bell so you know when the next video will be uploaded. Take care and blessed be.